Hi, I'm C.W.Goetz. Today we're going to learn how to process firewood at your campsite. You're going to need 3 tools for that. You're going to need a knife, you're going to need a hatchet, and you're going to need a saw. And speaking of saws, I pack my saws in a bag like this that I made myself. Oh, and it's a great idea. Take 2 saws. I've had situations where one saw broke and I was left with nothing. Again, learn the hard way. So let's make some firewood. Now there are many different types of saw designs out there. This particular design right here is called a buck saw. And the company that makes this buck saw is called Fast Buck Saw. And you can find them on the web at fastbucksaw.com. Now when you buy a saw, whether it's from the hardware store or if you buy it online, generally it's going to come with a blade that was designed for cutting green wood. Well, we're not cutting green wood, we're cutting dry wood. In fact, we're cutting down, dead, dry wood, okay? Now, one other thing I want to mention is these saws, I've got them set up here, they assemble very quickly, and it's a very convenient type of saw. Very useful. Let's take a look at the difference in these 2 saw blade designs. This saw blade is designed to cut green wood. You can see 4 teeth right here, and then a raker. 4 teeth and a raker. So every 5th tooth is not a sawtooth, but a raker. Rakers don't cut, rakers rake. So 20% of this saw blade is actually useless for cutting. And now you'll notice on this blade is designed for cutting dry wood. And you'll notice that each one of these teeth are for sawing. There are no rakers on this blade. Okay, here's a great example of a piece of wood that's dead and down. And by dead and down, we mean it's not green, it's fresh. It's been here a while and it's dried out. And we're going to check that in a second when I cut my first piece. But you don't want something, just because it's dead and down, doesn't mean you want something that's on the ground. Because chances are that's going to be rotten and it's not going to burn very well anyway. So let's cut our first piece and we'll check the moisture. Okay, now it was raining here this morning and everything was soaking wet, and you're going to find that if it's rained. But that doesn't mean that this isn't primo firewood. So, and you might see, if it's wet, if it's been raining, you might see a ring of water around the outside, just maybe 1/8 of an inch in from the inside. But like I said, we're going to check the inside. We're going to do 2 tests. We're going to do what's called the cheek and the lips test. There's 2 separate. So what's going to happen? You're going to put this up against your cheek. And if there's moisture in there, your cheek will immediately pick up any moisture in that wood. Then we're going to do the lips test. I know it sounds kind of weird, but okay. So again, if there's moisture, your lips are definitely going to pick up that moisture. But this looks like a great piece. Of course, you're going to want to chop off the end where it's all wet. But now we're ready to split this firewood. Okay, now we're going to split our wood, and to do that I'm going to use a splitting hatchet. Now you can use a regular hatchet, but a splitting hatchet is designed for just that, splitting. The other will work, and that's just fine. I'm also going to use a block of wood. Now this is a 2-inch thick, it's actually 1.5 inches, but we call it a 2x. And this one is about 6 inches wide and it's about 1 foot long. It just gives me something that will protect my blade, my axe, when I follow through the piece of wood that I'm splitting. If I'm doing it on rocks, I don't want that blade hitting the rocks because that'll dull this faster than, just like that. Anyway, I'm also going to have a piece of a branch here that is about 2 inches in diameter, and it's about 1.5 feet long. And I'm going to use that as my pounding tool. That's how I'm going to drive my splitting hatchet through the piece of wood. So I've also got a pair of safety glasses. I found that that's a pretty good idea. Things can fly off and nobody wants that in their eyes. So let's go ahead and split. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my hatchet on the piece of wood, and I'm going to keep this parallel with the ground, okay? So that and I'm going to extend out about like this. I don't want that hatchet coming back into my knee. Okay, so I've got it parallel. I've got the hatchet on what's already starting to crack here, so I'm going to use that to my advantage. We'll take our pounding stick here and we'll just start pounding away until we get this thing split. Okay, I'm going to take these longer pieces here of the small stuff and I'm going to cut those in half. Okay, now we split our big pieces down into smaller ones. Those are from the fuel to the kindling. Now we're going to take our knife and we're going to split that kindling down into smaller pieces we call tinder. Okay, now you can see we've split some small pieces here, some even smaller yet, and then now we've got here some tinder. Okay, now the last step in our process, we're going to make some wood chips. Now there are a number of different ways to do this. There's a couple different methods that I've used before. I'm going to show you this one because it's probably the safest. Okay, now we went from tinder to shavings. Okay, now we've seen how to take our wood, split it down into tiny little pieces from fuel to kindling to tinder to shavings. Now we're ready to build a fire.